So, I don't know how many of these sessions you've done of the limbs of devotional service. Is this number 4 or number 3? Third one, number 3. Do you know what the other ones are? There's 5, which are very, very important limbs of devotional service. Limbs of devotional service means, devotional service is standing on these limbs, just like a table stands on its 4 limbs. They're all important. So like that, there are 5. So does anyone remember what the other 4 are? So obviously there's one which is today, which is visiting holy places. What are the other ones? Let's have a shout if you remember. Or if you know, or if you heard from somewhere, or if you come on the previous sessions, or maybe you just read it in a book somewhere. Vaishnav Seva? Good. What else? What other ones? Any other ones?
Deity service.
Deity service, what he just did. He was worshipping the Lord. So that, serving the deity, definitely one of them. What else?
Praying.
What's that?
Praying.
Praying, okay, good, praying. Shilan?
My favorite activity, eating.
Eating, good, eating prasadam. Now they're all things that help you in your devotional service. They're all things. But I said the 5 main things that sort of are the essence or the essentials of devotional service are, one is sadhu sangha. Sadhu sangha means associating with sadhus. Sadhus are saintly, powerful people. So associating with sadhus is one. The other one is nam kirtan, which is chanting the names, which we did. Okay, so singing the holy names. You like chanting, singing? So that's one of them. So sadhu sangha, nam kirtan, bhagavad shravan. Bhagavad shravan means hearing the Bhagavatam, reading the Bhagavatam, studying the Bhagavatam, because the Bhagavatam contain all the pastimes and stories of the Lord. Another one is Mathuravas. Mathuravas means, it specifically refers to Mathura, but in general it can mean one of the holy places and residing there in one of the holy places. And the last one is Sri Murtira Shraddhaya Sevana, means to worship the deity of the Lord. So if you do, it is said that even if you do one of these nicely, you make a lot of progress in spiritual life. There are other ways you can make progress, but through these 5, you make rapid progress. It's like the M25. No, it's not. M25, you don't go anywhere. It's like an empty motorway, you can imagine.
And it's really nice.
I don't know how you're going to imagine that.
Even though bhakti is an affair of the heart, it's a very heart-centered practice, but also it's very scientific too. So we have all these instructions and ladders and limbs of how to achieve the goal that we want. So I feel like Krishna consciousness is this really nice balance between heartfelt sentiment and then also the scientific way to get there. And I think it's a really nice mixture of the two, and we need both. We need both of those things to make our progress.
Good. So just last year, somehow I got inspired to learn how to swim, because I can't swim. Okay, a lot of Indians can't swim unless they're born in the West. You can't swim. You can't swim. I couldn't swim because in India they don't teach you swimming. All the parents say is, you go to school, get good grades, get a good job. You're either a doctor, or you're an engineer, or you're a failure. Okay, if you're not one of those two, okay, you gotta get a good job, then you get married, and you don't need to learn how to swim. That's why if something goes wrong in the water, then you chant Hare Krishna. At least you learn that, because you don't learn swimming. So I was thinking I should learn how to swim. So, how many of you can swim here? Okay, great. Remember last time I couldn't swim, but I went with Shilan on the Mystic India trip. No, you taught me how to sit in the float, which was very helpful, thank you. But I had to learn. I was like, I need to learn how to swim. So I took swimming lessons, and I've been taking them for a few months now, and I can swim. So I can do the front crawl, I can go from one end of the pool to the other, and not drown. But there was one point when I thought, what am I doing this for? I can't, it's really not working. I'm kind of just splashing about in the same place. I'm kicking about, I'm still in the same place, nothing's really working here. But then your teacher tells you, no, you do this, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, do this, try this, keep practicing. And I kept going twice a week for an hour and a half practicing, and then I could swim in like 3 months. And the point I'm trying to make here is, if you follow a certain process, it will work. Because there is a process, and as long as you follow it properly, it has to work. It can't not work if you follow the process. Yeah? So I never thought I could learn swimming. I thought it would be so difficult. And even when I was in there, I was like, how do these guys swim so easily? I'm like, this is so difficult for me. But over time I learned there is a process. Another thing I was thinking also is, every time I meet somebody, they tell me, oh, you lost weight. Oh, you lost weight. I'm like, no, you just haven't seen me for a few months. I look the same. And then people keep telling me, no, you really lost weight. So then I was getting a bit annoyed. So then I thought, okay, what shall I tell them? So then I started telling them, well, why don't you invite me to your house and feed me then? That was, so then they would go, yeah,
I think
sure.
I starve him.
Yeah, sure, come Prabhu. So then the reply would also always be, yeah, come Prabhu. And then, but no one ever invited me. So then my next line was, Prabhu, you lost so much weight. And I would be like, yeah, why don't you invite me to your house and feed me? And they're like, yeah, come Prabhu. Okay, fine. Give me a date and time. I'm on my calendar. I'll put it down right now. And then, okay. But that didn't work either. So then I went to like, Prabhu, you lost weight, so? Then my answer was, so? So what's the point? So I thought maybe I should put on some weight. So I went on YouTube, I looked up some videos, and it said like there's certain exercises you can do, and then you eat a lot of protein, and then you can put on weight. So I can tell you, look, I put on weight, look. Should I show you my muscles?
Wow.
They're big, isn't it? Look how big they are. I'm working on it. So the point is you exercise, okay, it works. There's a process, you follow the process, it works. Now I want to tell you that Krishna consciousness is also like that. Because sometimes you may think, I've been doing this for so long, okay, I'm doing a little bit, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm following the process. Why isn't it working? Do you ever feel that sometimes? Do you feel sometimes? I've been doing this for like, 3 days. Why is it not working? Or if you're like me, then you think, I've been doing this for like so many years. Why is it not working? But is it not working? Or do you think it's working? It's working? Well, how do you know it's working?
Others have progressed.
Others can see you.
No, others have progressed.
Others have progressed, yes. Others have progressed. So if you look at, there's so many people, I'm not going to start naming them, but there's so many people who I know in the past who I've been with for the last 15, 20 years, I know them. And when I look at them and I see that, yeah, this person's really changed from when I knew him many, many years ago. Some of them, well, at least one of them is even a sannyasi now. But I knew him then, and I know him now, and I can see that there's been a huge difference. And you can literally tell their progress. Also, others can tell a bit more than you can, because you're kind of growing. It's like the story of the frog. There's water boiling in a forest. There's these tribal people, and then this frog jumps in there. It's boiling water, and it just jumps straight out because it's too hot. But once the frog jumps in there and it's cold, it's only just started, so he's kind of in there. And then the water boils, and then he doesn't feel the difference in temperature because it's going slowly, and then he gets cooked. Cooked frog, not good. You need to throw that water away. But the point is, he can't tell small changes in temperature. So sometimes we are growing slowly, but we don't know. But others can tell the difference. But the point is, there is a process, and if you follow the process, it'll work. It can't not work because it is a process. Srila Prabhupada came to the West to give us this process of devotional service. And Srila Prabhupada isn't telling us that here's this amazing process, and look at me, I'm a pure devotee, but you're never going to be pure. It's not going to work on you. I'm just coming here to give this to you because that's what I do. No, that's not the point. The point is, he's giving you a process because he wants you to be a pure devotee. He wants you to be a pure devotee, and he knows that it works. That's the whole point. And you can all be amazing devotees. You can all elevate your consciousness to the next level. If you follow the process, it will work. It has to work. It can't not work. The process has been tried and tested for generations, for centuries. It has to work. And this is the process. And these are the 5 essential limbs. And if you just do these 5, okay, just these 5, not do anything else, it will work. Okay? And if, for example, if you think it's not working, okay, what could be the reason if you think it's not working? What do you think might cause it to not work?
You
Yeah.
might not be doing it properly.
Very good point. You might not be doing it properly.
Missing an ingredient.
What's that?
Missing an ingredient.
Missing an ingredient. Okay, so there's 2 things. You may be missing something, or you may not be doing it properly. I like your point. I like yours as well. But I like yours a bit more because if you're doing it properly, it has to work. But if you're not doing it properly, then it won't work. But then somebody needs to point it out to you that you're not doing it properly. But then if nobody's going to point it out to you unless you ask them. Okay? And who are you going to ask? So we should ask someone who knows a bit more, either a mentor or a spiritual teacher. I had my swim teacher and she would tell me, no, you're doing the front crawl, but you're not raising your hand, you need to go fully out. Okay, I was doing like this. Okay, no, not like that. And you got to reach far. And they'll tell you and they'll chastise you and they'll tell you, no, you're doing it wrong. And I can't tell my swim teacher, who do you think you are? Like, why are you telling me all these things? Like, no, but I need to because I need to learn. So we need to ask somebody, how do you think I'm doing? What do you think I can do a bit more? Because they're not going to come and tell you. They're not going to meddle with your business. Okay? But if you ask them, they'll tell you. So sometimes we need to check with others how we're doing. Sometimes it may also be the case that you are making progress. You just need to give it a little more time and be a bit more patient. Okay? Be a bit more patient. Give it a little more time. And then over time you'll see the difference. Every minute I spent in the water while I was swimming added to my experience. Okay, even though I felt like I wasn't making progress, I actually was, because now I can swim. So the point is, every little thing you do adds to your experience. You just need to give it a little more time, and you need to ask others, what can I do different?
And it's not one straight line, you know, it's going to go in different it's going to go in different directions. It's not just there's going to be some twists and turns along the way, and that's totally understandable for that to happen. It's not always just because we're complicated beings. Yeah, sorry. We're complicated. We can always share. Yeah, because we're complicated, it isn't always one straight line. We can expect there to be twists and turns, but part of having faith is understanding that despite these kind of ups and downs and twists and turns, but actually, as long as you're on the path and you're trying, then you are getting somewhere.
So, today's session is about, we've been talking about the different limbs of bhakti, but today we wanted to speak about Mathura Vas, going to a holy place. Okay? Now, why do you think that is important? What do you think is so important about going to a holy place? You can sure enough, you can practice Krishna consciousness at home. You can practice something devotional, something spiritual at home. So why would you think it is important to go somewhere? Why is that such an essential limb of devotional service? What do you think? Any thoughts, Shilen?
The analogy that I use for myself is you can watch football on TV or you could go to the match. And it's a completely different experience.
Good, thank you, yeah. If it's a different experience, watching it from far and being there, you're immersed in the experience like that. That's very good, thank you. What else? What else could be the reason? Any other things you can think of? Feel the vibration? Yes, definitely. But you can feel the vibrations at home if you put the TV loud enough. Then you can feel them here as well. What is it? What is different about it? There's no right or wrong answers. I'm just trying to collate different things, and I'm going to see if I have them.
For me personally, it actually completely transformed my spiritual practice when I went to Vrindavan was the first place I ever visited, and it totally transformed my practice.
How did it transform?
Because I had such a profound experience that I just thought, okay, this is the feeling that I got in Vrindavan when I went there for the first time. I've had different experiences since that haven't been so great, but maybe we'll get into that later maybe. But the first time I went and the experience I had was so enlivening for me, and it left such a samskara, it left such an impression that even if I wanted to forget, I couldn't forget that. It just left such an impression, and I think if I hadn't been taken by the really kind devotees, if I hadn't been taken to Vrindavan and had that experience, I don't know how I would have really lasted in my Krishna consciousness, because that experience gave me it opened my mind to the possibilities. I saw so many other devotees from different parts of the world who were practicing. I heard kirtan like I'd never heard before. I, got to be and see the places that I had read about, and it really left such a deep imprint that I think it really kept me going for a good few years after that, even when I wanted to give up and even when I wanted to stop practicing. But that memory of being in Vrindavan at that time actually kept me going. So it's very life-giving, I find.
So would you say it brought Krishna consciousness to life for you?
I would say that it gave me a glimpse of what real Krishna consciousness is. And that glimpse was enough to keep me going, despite me not wanting to carry on at times or finding it too difficult. But that glimpse kept me going. And I'm kind of always chasing after that glimpse. I feel like a lot of Krishna consciousness is like that. We maybe get a little bit of a drop of bliss, and we get a glimpse of what real Krishna consciousness is, and then we're kind of just chasing after that. And yeah, I'm still chasing after that and hoping to keep having a little more of those, Krishna magic sprinkles. Yeah.
You see, one of the first things about a holy place is that these are places where Krishna, or different forms of Krishna, or whoever it may be, they all came at that place and performed search and pastimes. Okay? And the energy of their presence is still there. They walk this earth, their feet touch the ground, there are all the places that they perform different pastimes, and it's still there. And whether you believe it or not, if you're there, you will feel the energy of the place. It's just amazing. It's something different to what you would experience anywhere else. It's like someone told me the other day that there is a sannyasi in our movement, Kadamakananda Swami. He said something like, if there is a Harinam Sankirtan done in a street, the day before, even then people on the day get the benefit if they go to the same street. That's so cool, isn't it? Like if it's done and the Harinam Party is done and they're gone, and then the next day still people are getting the benefit of being there. That's the holy name so powerful because it's there. So with Krishna may have come to the planet like a few hundred years ago or a few thousand years ago or whenever it may be. But that place has become holy and transformed because of the touch of Krishna's feet in its different places. And so that is one of the reasons that it's also good to go there and to just be in. It's almost like Krishna is there and you can feel his association. Another reason to go to a holy place is also it brings the stories that you've been reading to life. It brings the Bhagavatam to life. Otherwise, it's story in a book. Okay? It's like you're reading, okay, Krishna did this, Krishna did that. But when you actually go to Vrindavan, you see the place where Krishna killed the Keshi demon. You see the place, you see the tree where Krishna jumped off to kill Kaliya. Well, not kill Kaliya, to kind of, give him a good beating. And you see all these different places where Krishna performed various pastimes. To see the places where the Goswamis, the disciples of Lord Chaitanya, everybody was there, they performed bhajan. And you can actually like do a walkthrough and put narrating the stories, hearing the stories, and you can it literally brings everything to life. And that leaves such an experience, a samskara on your mind, and it enlivens you. And it's good to do that, because otherwise, Krishna consciousness sometimes these stories become like mythological things in our mind. Oh yeah, it's mythology, it's a nice story, it didn't really happen. But you can go and see these places. And no one actually wrote the books and then went around creating these places all around the world just to make sure the book is not proven wrong. You know, it's not made up things. It's these things actually happen, these places. That's why they're there, and that's why the books are there. And it gives you a strong philosophical grounding, but it also gives you experience. You see, Krishna consciousness is two things. One is the philosophy, which keeps you grounded, which keeps you strong, which keeps you going when things are not going right. It's a strong philosophical foundation we need. But a lot of philosophy can make you dry. And to accompany that philosophy, you also need an experience. So a good balance of Krishna consciousness is when you have the philosophy, you're studying, you're reading, you're learning, but at the same time you're also visiting places, you're having experiences, and through your practice you're having experiences and growing in your Krishna consciousness. So philosophy and experience go hand in hand. And that's why if you look at these 5 things that I mentioned, it's a mix of both. Okay, it's a mix of both things, and they're all important. Now, another reason why you go to these holy places is also to get a glimpse of what it would be like if you actually went to the spiritual world. Isn't it? The philosophy of Krishna consciousness is that we're spiritual beings. Okay? We're not this body. And we don't belong to this world, we belong to a spiritual realm. But then what's it like there? What's it like in the spiritual world? Sometimes, have you seen all these magazines like Jehovah's Witness and a lot of Christian magazines? And sometimes I find that in Vedic understanding, in Vedic culture, you know, the books that we have, they give you a lot of information about the spiritual world and what is beyond this life, whereas in the other books you don't get that so much. It's like, the most you get is like a picture, the typical picture of a man, his wife, a few kids, and then there's a dog there, and there's a lion as well, and they're all living hand in hand. And it's sunny, there's a nice garden in the background, and everybody's living peacefully. But you're still with the same family, and you know, I often think, like, if you die when you're old, then are you old in the spiritual world or in heaven where you go, like according to that picture? And who are all the young people, and why are they young, and you know, where are the old people, and why are those kids, and are the kids going to grow up, or they're not going to grow up, they're always going to stay kids? It's sometimes you don't get the full picture, but with Vedic understanding you get a full picture of what it's like to be in the spiritual world. And the holy places are there where you can actually experience that.
I just want to expand on that, because it is true, within our literature there is literally so much information: what God looks like, what he wears, what time he goes to sleep, who he plays with, what he eats, you know, what he does during the day. And I know a lot of you are from a Hindu background anyway, but it's like not taking that for granted, because in a lot of other spiritual paths or scriptures around the world, we don't get that information. It's so vague. When I would ask my granny, who was a devout Catholic, okay, but then what does God look like? She wouldn't be able to tell me. And this is someone who's devoted her life to the church, and that's okay. But I just think it's important to not take that for granted. We get so much information, you know, and it's really a beautiful thing. It's so cool, because you really get all those questions asked. Yeah, Shilin, did you have a question?
No, I just wanted to make a point. So
Yeah.
it goes back to Radha Govinda's point of you can read about these things in a book, but if you go there, then it becomes real and it strengthens your faith. Without going there, one may think, well, really, did this happen? And, but all the vastness of our scriptures can be experienced.
Yeah, it strengthens your faith in Krishna consciousness. So it's important to go and experience what the spiritual realm would be like. That's another beauty of Krishna consciousness. In a lot of other religions and other traditions, you usually have to die before you figure out what happens after. There's not really much information. But in Vedic understanding, on the path of Krishna consciousness, you can experience things while you're in this life. You don't have to actually die before you see God. You don't have to die before you have a spiritual experience and go to the spiritual world. You can do it while you're alive in this body. And so,
And we have examples of people that have achieved that. It's not just like there are many, many examples of people who have achieved pure Krishna consciousness in their body that they're in right now in this lifetime.
and you can do that too. And if you go to all these holy places, spiritual places, especially Vrindavan, I haven't been to many spiritual places which are like Vrindavan. Sometimes there's like a temple in the middle of a city and it's okay. It's nice, but then you're back out in the city and then you go swimming and stuff like that. Well, I didn't, but now I probably will, now that I can swim. But if you go to Vrindavan, it's like the whole town is just, it's like being in the spiritual world. It's like everything in that place is just like reminds you of Krishna. Even the trees have got like Radha Radha written on it. Even the monkeys come and, steal your glasses, and it's all very spiritual. Everything in that town, everything in Vrindavan reminds you of Krishna. So you can have that experience by going there. So that's one side of being in a holy place. Yes, Radha Govinda Prabhu.
Walking in late into your life's class, and actually I don't even know the topic of the video, and I apologize for that. I just want to come and sit down and associate with you guys. But one thing comes to my mind, and it'd be nice for you guys to elaborate on, is I think it's next to instruction where it says that you should live in the Dham. Mathura's mentioned, Vrindavan's mentioned. So if you get a chance, please say something about that.
You should live in the Dham.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I take that at the end? Because we are kind of covering some of the practical things and stuff like that. So we will get to it. Just before we get to it, I will answer it. If I don't answer it, just remind me, but I will. But one of the things I wanted to speak about before is that going to these places is amazing, but another thing is also that there are glimpses of holy places you can get in so many different places. Okay? So of course there are the places in India like Vrindavan and Mayapur and places you can go to. But if you go to any place where Krishna is present, that is also a holy dham. If you go to the Bhaktivedanta Mana, that is also a holy dham. If you come to, Avanti school in Redbridge, this is also a holy dham because Krishna is here. Okay? Any place you go, even if there is no deity, but any place where devotees come together, associate, and talk about Krishna becomes a holy dham. Okay? Because it's about the subject matter. Okay? It's about the subject matter of what is being discussed. So different things, there are different ways in which you can experience the holy dham, and it's present in different ways. But the main purpose of being, especially when it talks about Mathura Vas, is actually going to a holy dham, is because it helps you disassociate a little bit with your day-to-day things, take some time out, and just focus completely on your spiritual life, and that is very, very important.
Are we going to talk about the fact that sometimes when you go to these holy places that it doesn't always go to plan, or sometimes it's not what you expect? Are we talking about that?
Yeah, so we can talk about it in the practical
fine.
bits. But the one thing I wanted to mention was that any place you go, you can make it into a holy place. And there are different levels of things. And it is always important to disconnect from our day-to-day and sort of connect spiritually. And it's very important because a lot of times we don't give ourselves enough time to grow spiritually and to experience spiritual things. We get caught up in our day-to-day things, work, life, whatever comes, and we sort of, to some degree, neglect our spiritual side, which is very important. So there are different ways. It is said that you should go away and take a break for 1 month every year. Once in a year for a month you should go away and disconnect from things. Okay? Every week you should do that for 1 day. And every day you should do that for 1 hour. Okay? 1 month every year, 1 day every week, and 1 hour every day. Okay? You need to do that because that is the absolute minimum that you need if you want to grow in Krishna consciousness. By going away for a month, even if you can't do it for a month because a month may be too much unless you have lots of time on your hands. Even if you do it for a couple of weeks, okay? The principle is you disconnect and you absolutely go to a holy place and just focus on that without worrying about other things, okay? So it's always good to plan that, save up for that, and then go and have that experience. You won't regret it. Once in a year. And by doing that, you are visiting the holy dham, okay? Once in a week, you could take out one day. You could take out one day of your week to associate with devotees and do some service. Okay? That way also you're visiting the holy dham. And for you that may mean coming here for a Sunday program, meeting devotees, associating, chanting kirtan, being in front of the lovely Gauranitai deities. Okay? That is your one day a week where you're experiencing the holy dham by being here. You could also turn your home into a temple. You could turn your home into a temple. And that doesn't mean that you have a small temple room somewhere on the 3rd floor, in the attic or in the basement, where you kind of go if you need something. But it needs to be a prominent area in your home. And maybe your home is just filled with activities that remind you of it as a temple. You could put up pictures around your house. You could do different activities during the day, anything, but you turn your home into a temple and your home becomes a holy dham. And then you practice Krishna consciousness for 1 hour a day in that temple, so you're still in the holy dham. Okay? But the essence of all these things is to manifest the holy dham within your heart. Because by that practice, by all these different things that you're doing, you're going away, experiencing the holy dham, and trying to manifest it in your heart. You're practicing Krishna consciousness, associating with devotees once a week, and you're trying to take that away with you in your heart. Even in your day-to-day practice, you're 1 hour a day, at least. It doesn't mean it's a maximum and you can't do more. But your 1 hour a day is also all these different practices. The main goal is you're trying to manifest Krishna consciousness within your heart, and then your heart becomes a holy dham. Do you get that? That's so cool, isn't it? Like your heart becomes a holy dham and you're taking the holy dham anywhere with you. And that is why it is said that the great devotees, wherever they go, that is a holy dham. Okay? Great pure devotees, it is said that going to a holy dham you can take a dip and it will purify you, but wherever the great devotees go, they purify the places themselves because they are themselves like the holy dham. Okay? They carry it with them. So that is the ultimate goal, that we want to bring these holy places into our heart, bring Krishna consciousness into our heart. That's what we're trying to do, ultimately. So that is the whole idea. Does that make sense? Have I convinced you enough? Are you going to go to the holy dhams? If you want to go, you can speak to Jagannath Sharan Prabhu and he'll arrange a trip for you to go to India, and we'll give you 10% discount, okay? And we'll arrange a trip for you. We'll take you to Vrindavan, we'll take you to Mayapur, and then you can have that experience. And all these things that you're reading, that it's not just a story anymore. You can actually go. And you may be thinking, oh, I'm from India, I know all these things. And I've been to these places. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. But it's always good to go and experience it. Now, I wanted to talk something about some practical side of things. And I'll try and cover what Radha Govinda Prabhu asked as well. We bump into him almost every other day now. And I tell him, Hare Krishna Radha Govinda Prabhu, and he goes, Hare Krishna Radha Govinda Prabhu. And I often get like calls, Prabhu, where is that recording that you made? What recording? I can't remember any recording. They're trying to get in touch with him. Do you do any video recordings or audio recordings or things like that? That's you, isn't it? Okay.
Asking about Bhakti Lounge and
Oh God. Yeah. Well, good luck with that. Even I can't deal with those. Okay. So let's talk about some practical aspects of how you would go if you had to go to a holy dham. How would you go, and how do you go about? So first of all, you can get in touch with Shilan. Shilan's been everywhere. He goes to India 9 times a year, and he can take you there. That's a short version. the longer version is I just wanted to talk about a few things. So first of all, Kisori, do you want to head this up? Why don't you tell us?
I can say something.
Share something. Yeah.
Okay, so preparing to go to a holy dham. The first thing I guess you'd think about is packing your bag. What am I going to take? You know, what are the essentials? And that's there, but I think what's even more important than what you put in your bag is how are you going to prepare your consciousness?
What you put in your head.
What are you going to put in your head? Because that needs to be prepared too. And so for different people that can mean different things. So it might mean, okay, let me really learn about the place I'm going to. Let me try and understand what is the significance of this place I'm going to. Maybe let me try and talk to other people and find out how is the best way for me, what is the best attitude for me to have. And I know that Srila Prabhupada said that actually going to a holy dham without hearing from a devotee is kind of pointless. The way to get the real, so things like this, so the way to get the real benefit from going to a holy dham, for example, would be to hear from the devotees, to sit and learn. That's one thing. And then it could be, okay, what is it that I want to get from the trip? So I know that many people, they'll have a sankalpa, they'll have an intention, or they'll have a meditation for that trip specifically. And so when their mind starts to wander, which it definitely can do, you can bring it back to that sankalpa, bring it back to that intention. So I think as well as packing your bags, we also need to start to maybe get our consciousness ready too. Because I've definitely had times where I've gone to Vrindavan, for example, and my consciousness hasn't been ready. And I didn't even try to get my consciousness ready, and I felt the difference. I could really tangibly see, okay, this is what's going on here. So yeah, I would say set intentions, really think about why you're going, try and understand the place, the do's and don'ts, all that kind of stuff. And the power of the mind is such that you can be somewhere in your mind before you're even there physically. So it could even mean during your meditation, if any of you chant on your japa beads or during kirtan, you can even think of, okay, this place I'm going in, and really start to meditate on the place just to make the most of it, I would say, is a nice one.
So in essence, prepare your consciousness and have a sankalpa, have a reason why you're going there, and know that beforehand.
I think that
and
can
try and
be
bring
helpful.
it back. Yeah. Whenever your mind goes somewhere else, bring it back to that
What's your
sankalpa.
intention?
What's your intention?
Yeah.
Okay, very good point. Now another thing that I would tell you is, now people do it differently, but this sort of works for me. This is what I do when I go to a holy dham. Is in the past, like whenever I used to go, like once or twice, I used to just go everywhere, visit all different places, go visit Krishna's pastimes and here and there and Nidhivan and Sevakunj and everywhere, all day. Then after that, I did that once or twice, and then I was like, this ain't really working for me, because it can become like sightseeing, like Krishna sightseeing tours and travels, okay? So something like that it can become. What I generally do now that really works for me is that I go and study for half a day. I learn about Vrindavan, I learn about the places, I prepare my consciousness. So morning, usually, I go to the morning program, I go to the temple program, class, and whatever, breakfast or whatever you need to do. And then I just study, and I just read till like 3 p.m. And somehow, the holy dham has this potency that you can just sit for 5 hours and read. Never in my life have I sat for 5 hours and read. 20 minutes and I get fidgety. And I remember once me and Sutapan then, we went to Vrindavan, and we would just do the morning program, and we would even skip breakfast, because after breakfast you start falling asleep, and then you take a nap, and then it just takes out like half an hour turns into like an hour and a half, and and then you get up, take a shower, and then it's like midday, and then it's too hot, and you know what I mean. So we just used to skip breakfast after class, 8:30, 9 o'clock, come back, read straight from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And we just read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, read the stories, read about these places. And then after 3 or 4 o'clock, when it gets a bit cooler, then we would go visit different places like that. And most times, nowadays when I go to Vrindavan, I just go to the places of the 6 Goswamis. I don't really go anywhere. But the idea is that if you split up your day half and half, do some studying, do some reading, try and really understand the pastimes, understand the places, and then in the evening, you can also go and visit places when it's a bit cooler. You can take part in these pastimes, do some service, you can visit and pray, chant, like something like that. So do both. Don't just go visiting place every day. So it helps. Another thing, like that's why if you go to like some of these yatras that Radhanath Maharaj does and so many yatras, like even in these yatras, they travel for half a day and then Maharaj just speaks. And then you just learn so much. It's almost like when you hear from a great Vaishnava speaking about the places, it's more like that's a more of an experience of being there than actually being there, because you're like, wow, this is amazing, I'm actually there now. I remember listening to some of Radhanath Maharaj's yatras, the talk, and it's like you're transported to a different place, isn't it? Like when you're just listening. So my general tip is like half and half. I read for half the day, and then I travel for half the day and visit places and experience things. And it's just a perfect mix of experience and philosophy that you need. So that was the second thing I wanted to say. So have a good intention, prepare your consciousness. And number 2 is do both. Do a bit of philosophy and do a bit of visiting different places. The third thing is to also understand that the experience in a place may not be as spiritual as you think it might be. Okay? Depending on the state of your consciousness. Because we've got to understand that the spiritual world, the holy dhams are in the spiritual world. They're not really part of India, but they're also in India. But they're not really part of India, but they're still in India and there's Indians there. But it's still the spiritual world. It's what you call achintya bheda tattva. It's oneness and difference. You can't really understand. It's not really India, but you'll still see like, rickshaw drivers trying to rip you off, and then you'll see like people trying to ask you for money, and then you'll see like dogs on the street who are hurt. You'll see people fighting, people swearing, and then you'll think, what's going on here? I thought this was a spiritual world. What it is, I'll tell you what it is. You know what it is? It's an illusion. It's to make you think that this is ordinary. And you really, really have to be spiritual to be able to cut through that and see the spiritual world for what it is. It's to bewilder all these people who are going there just to do sightseeing and do business.
I think that's probably also part of preparing your consciousness, is just knowing that these things are still there. There are still very material things there that you'll see that might upset you, disappoint you, might be uncomfortable. You might get sick, you might see things you wish you hadn't seen, or things like that. And I think that's part of also preparing your consciousness, just knowing that also may be there too, and how we can deal with that. And I think one of the ways we can deal with it is by having these kind of conversations, understanding what is the tattva here, what is the truth here, and how can I discern from these things and still have a good time.
Yeah. Another thing I had is it's always good to go to holy places with devotees. That really helps, because when you're not in the right consciousness, they help you be in the right consciousness. And I think visiting holy places with devotees is just a completely different experience than by going by yourself. It's just so transformative. And when you're with somebody, with devotees, you're chanting together, you're traveling together, you're visiting places, hearing about pastimes, doing kirtan together, it's just a completely different experience. So my suggestion would be, if you do go with devotees. There's devotees going all the time. You can tag along and you can ask them, can I come with you? Or I'm sure now and then there's some trips being organized that you can go on. But visiting holy places with devotees is another amazing experience. Now coming to the last point on staying in the holy dham. So like Radha Govinda Prabhu was asking. So it's very interesting because some places it says we should, like specifically it says you should live in the holy dham. But at the same time it's interesting that Prabhupada said don't spend too much time there. He said 3 days in Vrindavan. He said no more than 3 days. Because the understanding is that if you're in the right frame of mind, if you're in the right state of consciousness, Then you can live in Vrindavan and you can just be there and then just absorb yourself in Krishna consciousness, like a lot of Goswamis did, like a lot of other people, other devotees in the past, the acharyas, so many of them lived in Vrindavan just being absorbed fully. But if you're not in that right frame of mind, if you're not in the right state of consciousness, you might go to Vrindavan and after 3-4 days you might, for the first 3 days it's fun, and after the 4th day you start seeing everything that's wrong with the place and you start finding faults with the place and you start getting a bit agitated. Then you're in your room in Vrindavan on YouTube, okay? And then from that you go to Netflix. Not that I've ever done that. And you go, you start getting distracted and you're like, you don't need to be there for that. So the idea was that Srila Prabhupada said that go for 3 days, because 3 days is a long enough time to be able to be in a good consciousness. After that, it starts declining. You go to holiday sometimes, like different places. Holidays, I find that when I go on holiday, the most I can be is like 5 days. I can't really go anywhere for more than 5 days. After the 5th day, I'm like ready to come back. Wherever I go, whether it's Switzerland or Tenerife or wherever, there's only so much you can be on a holiday. After like 4 or 5 days, it's like, okay, God, I'm done with this. Let's go back. But you don't want to do that in Vrindavan. But the idea is, if you can maintain a good consciousness for 3, 4, 5 days, visit the holy places, read, chant, be with devotees, and have like an intensive experience, then you come back feeling energized, uplifted, having all that association. Obviously, as you advance more in your consciousness, you will be able to spend more and more time there, as a lot of devotees do. But also, Prabhupada also mentioned, don't go to Vrindavan to do a business, to start a business and to try and earn money or something like that. That's not the place Vrindavan's for. It's there to visit and to be absorbed in the pastimes of the Lord.
And just something to add is that even if you go to Vrindavan, for example, with a group of devotees, just know that everyone's experience is going to be different, because we're all on our different journeys. And Vrindavan is non-different from Krishna, and we all have our personal relationship. And someone might have a certain experience that you might not have, and that's okay. And also what I found is that different times you go, there's also different experiences, different realizations, and even the so-called quote-unquote bad things that happen in these holy dhams isn't really bad at all, because it's what is Krishna trying to tell me here, what am I learning, So everyone has a different experience each time they go, and no one trip is the same, and no one person is the same either, I would say, when we visit these holy dhams. It's different for everyone.
Good, different experiences.
Yeah.
Great, so that's all I wanted to say, and that's all Kisori wanted to say. Or did you have any more to say?
I think that even if for whatever reason it's not accessible for you to go to, for example, Mathura, like the topic of this talk, that Srila Prabhupada gave us the tools to make our home Vrindavan, like you mentioned. So you've got like Vrindavan, that's there, and then how can we make our home, and then ultimately how can we make our heart Vrindavan? How can we make our heart soft like butter so that Krishna wants to come and steal it and live there? And I think that, even if you can't because of work or responsibilities, or there's some blockage, that you can create that in your own home. And because of Srila Prabhupada's mercy, we have got so many different centers around the world, so many different temples. There is devotees everywhere, right? And devotees are just as good, if not better, than the holy places themselves. So I would say cultivating more of that in your life too. And then when you're ready, you'll go, So I think, but there's different ways to go to Vrindavan, and if you can't go to the place physically, then you can create it in your home, and you can go to your local temple, associate with like-minded devotees who you feel comfortable with, and because of Srila Prabhupada, there's so many ways in which we can get that.
And what would you say are some of the main places to go to?
Where?
in India. The
In
holy
India?
dhams. Yeah. What are the main holy dhams you think you could go to?
Jamnagar, yeah.
Apart from Jamnagar.
Jamnagar, definitely, yeah, Gujarat. Actually, anyway, I won't talk about that. Well, we have our kind of main ones that Srila Prabhupada told us about, like Mayapur and Vrindavan and Jagannath Puri, which
Wait, so what's Mayapur?
Mayapur is the place of Lord Chaitanya.
So Mayapur is a place where Lord Chaitanya performed his pastimes.
Sorry, yes.
What's Vrindavan?
Vrindavan is where Krishna, as we know him, there's a picture all over the wall, Krishna over there with his flute and his peacock feather, where Krishna performs his pastimes there.
Okay. So we got Mayapur, Vrindavan. What else we got?
But why don't you talk about Jagannath Puri?
Jagannath Puri, that's another place to go. Jagannath Puri has been a spiritual hub for thousands of years because of Jagannath Rath Yatra, but made even more special because Lord Chaitanya spent...
Oh, the Rath.
Oh yeah, there's a Rath card there.
And even for someone who's in a white body, I'm not allowed in the temple, still so profound and such an amazing... I didn't even care. Like, it was still so amazing. So, yeah, just putting it out there. Even if you're white, still go to Jagannath Puri. It's good.
And also made very special by Lord Chaitanya, who spent 18 years there in Jagannath Puri and had different pastimes. So definitely, plus it's got a very good beach. If you can swim.
It does.
Take swimming lessons
Great
before you
beach.
go.
Good waves.
Very big waves, quite dangerous as well sometimes, Jagannath Puri. But so those are kind of our three main places we go to, and obviously there are places around that. Another few other places that are of significance are also Dwarka.
Basically Gujarat.
Dwarka in Gujarat, very close to Jamnagar. You can go from Jamnagar, you can take a train, 3 hours or something, and then you go to Bet Dwarka on the boat. So that's the island. So Dwarka, definitely another place.
Ayodhya.
Ayodhya is the center of Lord Ram, where Lord Ram took birth. There's been a lot of hoo-ha about it in the news last few weeks actually, months. One thing I learned from all that experience is don't believe a thing that you read on the news. They always give you half the story. Everybody, you won't believe the number of calls I get and number of people who ask me, because my sort of service mainly is with new people, and I take them on retreats and sort of share Krishna consciousness with them. And so many of them ask me like, so what do you think about Ayodhya, all this thing that is going on, and how can they do that and deprive Muslims of their thing or whatever, like all these questions. And I'm like, no, the stories you're reading on BBC, that's half the story on the CNN. Don't believe anything they tell you. Anyway, Ayodhya. Good place to go. What other places can you go? There's a lot of, Radha Govinda Prabhu. Ekachakra, close to Mayapur. Oh, another very important place. Looking at you, it just reminded me of Jaipur, where there are Radha Govinda deities. Jaipur is also a very special place, amazing place. So many deities, very significant to the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition are there. Kurukshetra, yes. Kurukshetra, amazing holy place. It's been holy since time immemorial. And Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita there, and it was even holy before that. So Kurukshetra, definitely a good place to go. In fact, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that is the holiest of all places where one should go. If you're going to do bhajan somewhere, you should go and do it in Kurukshetra. That's Bhaktivinoda Thakur's view. Even more so than Vrindavan and other places, and go to Kurukshetra. So Kurukshetra. Then there's Ahobilam. Ahobilam is a place where Nrsimhadev deities are there. A lot of Nrsimhadev deities, about 9 main ones scattered across the forest in different places. So Ahobilam is a special place. There's a place called Simhachalam, where it is said that Lord Nrsimhadev actually appeared. It was very funny. We had a talk in class once, and there's a Swami in our movement. I don't know if you know him. He's called Jayadvaita Swami. So he was giving the talk, and he was talking about Nrsimha Dev. And somebody, it was on Nrsimha Chaturdashi, and somebody, I
Which is
won't tell
coming
you
up
who.
in a few
Which
days.
is coming up in a
Wednesday,
few days. Yeah, Wednesday. I won't tell you who it is, because if I did tell you who it was, it would be even more funny, but I won't, because you may not know him. But he asked a question that, he goes, you know, in the Bhagavatam it says that Hiranyakashipu took over the heavenly planets, and then he took over the heavenly planets, and that's where he had his base, and that's where Hiranyakashipu appeared out of the pillar, because that's where he was living, and that's where Hiranyakashipu was killed by Nrsimha Dev. But then if you go to Simhachalam, they show you the pillar, and they say that this is the pillar where Nrsimha Dev came out of on planet Earth, and this is where the fight took place, and this is where Hiranyakashipu was killed. So where did it actually happen? And Jayadvaita Maharaj, with he answered it in one short sentence, and immediately he said, doesn't matter, he's dead. Next question. I was just sitting in the audience laughing my head off, and so was everybody else. But it was quite funny, especially because the devotee took so much time to explain the question, and he doesn't like long questions, but he took his time, and then it was just doesn't matter, he's dead. And it was with a straight face. And they're what's the next question? But any other places?
Well, yeah, not only in India, there is so many ISKCON temples, even in Europe, right? So there's one in pretty much all the countries in Europe. There's a ISKCON temple or center that you can go to. So even if you don't want to go all the way to India, you can go to France or Italy, where they have really beautiful temples. And I would say go anywhere where the devotees are. Essentially, go anywhere where the great devotees are, and there are great devotees among us. They're so merciful, and I would say go where the devotees are. But yeah, there's so many holy places in India too, of course.
See, next time you want to go on a holiday to Europe, go and stay in a temple. What you do is go for morning program, okay? Stay there. Then in the day you can go to Florence, you can go do your things or whatever, but stay in a holy place, so at least you get some parts of the morning program. Kirtan in the evening,
Nice.
morning program, class in the morning. And during the day you can go see the Eiffel Tower and whatnot, whatever else you want to see. So next time, that's a good place to go on a holiday, and it'll work out cheaper for you as well. But these are also holy places that you can go to.
Maybe there's any questions.
Yeah, so we got about 5 minutes. Should we take any questions if you have any questions from anybody? Quick 1 or 2 questions. I'll give one-line answers like Jayadvaita Maharaj.
And I tend to waffle, so I'll make up for it.
So depending on how long you want the answer to be, you can pick one of us to ask the question. Yes, Prabhu.
Can you share something about, if you haven't been to India or any kind of spiritual places like that, how might one consider that actually it's a good thing to do? Because somebody might not even consider that I should do that, and I should make an endeavor and should make an effort, make it a priority. So I guess just to help people prioritize it.
What do you think, Kisori?
I think that to prioritize going to a holy place, really you'd have to look at what are you prioritizing in your life in general. What are you wanting to get out of your life in this time? And if it is spiritual enthusiasm and depth and experience and an adventure, like the topic of the talk, then it's the obvious thing to do. But I would say it probably takes what do you want? What to prioritize. So I think it also sometimes is never the right time to go, but then the right time never really comes. So if the opportunity is there and there's even some inclination, then why not? And I think there's no loss in it. So I guess speaking to other people who have been would be one way. Maybe reading about the benefits of it, hearing the benefits of it, and just know that there's nothing to lose. And if the opportunity is there, might as well take it. So, but I think it depends on the individual, and actually it depends on what is a priority in your life at this point in time. If it's not Krishna consciousness, then maybe going to a holy place wouldn't be there. But if it is, if there is that spiritual spark there, or that inclination more, then it's something you have to prioritize, you know? I don't know if that helps.
I take groups of people to India, so I do retreats and stuff. But mainly it's new people, and it's very interesting. I have a database of new people, okay? So they're people we met kind of who visited the manor once, or who kind of found us online or something. I have a database of 3,500 people. And we do programs every week, a program at the manor, or at least 4 or 5 times a month there's some program for them. And I'm always promoting things on the database, and sometimes I find that people don't come to any of those, and a lot of them are even free, they don't come to. And then as soon as I put a retreat out, like people have never been to the temple ever, and they're happy to just pay you like all this money to go in India for a 2-week trip. I'm like, wow, that's interesting. So half the time when I take people to India, I don't even know who they are. And they just, I just meet them on the orientation day. I'm like, oh yeah, I've never seen you around before. But it's very interesting because, like even in our last trip, like we had about 20, 25 people, and about 15 to 18 people had never been to a temple before, brand new, white people. And I'm like, okay, what am I going to tell them in Melkote? And but I'll tell you, it was so interesting. We went to Melkote, and we climbed up this hill and went to the Nrsimhadev temple. And the only thing they had heard about Nrsimhadev was the story I told them on the bus, right? A lot of them didn't know anything about Nrsimhadev. And we went there, we took darshan, and I was looking at the deity, I was admiring his beauty and like the, different things. And then I turned around, and half the people in the group are crying. I'm like, what are you crying for? Like, I haven't even told you anything yet. But it's like just the experience is just so powerful for a lot of people. And what I generally find is that people make a lot more progress in the 2 weeks that they're there than they do coming to a program every week for the whole year. Because it's like an immersive experience. So, plus it's fun. So, if you think that maybe this Krishna consciousness looks good, I like the association of these people, I want to make some progress in Krishna consciousness. If that is a thought in your head, then you might want to consider going to a holy place with some devotees, because that will give you like a boost, like a kickstart in Krishna consciousness, and you will make a lot of progress really fast. And then you can carry on. It's like, if you go to Alton Towers, okay, there's this ride called Rita. I really didn't like that, but it was like you sit in the ride, and it just shoots you to like 120 miles an hour in like 2 seconds, like a catapult, boom, like that. Or you can go on the normal roller coaster, which kind of slowly goes up that slope. Remember that dreaded slope? It takes like half an hour to go up before it, and then it starts. So our daily programs, we're doing little, but going to India on a holy dham on a trip, it's like going on Rita, boom, like really fast, and you make rapid progress. So if that is a thought in your head, if you want to make progress in Krishna consciousness, it's very much worth considering going on a holy dham trip with the devotees and learning more. Thank you. Yes, Murlidhar Prabhu.
You know that you mentioned like have 1 hour in a day where you do something. So we're all chanting anyway, so we spend 2 hours. But was it something specific you were thinking of that 1 hour?
No, but the idea is that do something every day. Now, sometimes we chant because it's like an obligation. We go through a phase when we're new to Krishna consciousness, where it's fun, you want to explore and you want to try out chanting and things like that. What I tend to find is after a few years, it becomes more like an obligation. It becomes like, I have to chant my 16 rounds, I have to fit them in somewhere here and there. So, but do something every day that you want to do that helps you grow in Krishna consciousness on top of that. So it may be, it becomes an obligation. It's like, oh God, okay. Or sometimes it may not be so bad. It may not be, oh God, what am I doing? But it's like, it just fits in your day and it's kind of done. But maybe at least spend half an hour or something doing something that you really want to do in your spiritual life, something that you love doing. And that's very good to add to it. That was sort of something. But for a lot of people, it's mainly for those who may not be doing anything every day, so at least an hour. Thank you. Anything else? Otherwise, we can call it an evening and go for prasadam. It's a special day, Ekadasi, isn't it?
Yeah.
Special day. That is your once a month, twice a month fast, Ekadasi. You always need to disconnect. Okay. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.